We begin today the Gemara on the Tzadik Zayin Amud Aleph, 9 lines down from the top of the Yamud. Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Braisa. This is continuing the halachas that I spoke about before regarding wine, because the Mishnah spoke about selling wine, then it turns out to be bad quality. Then the Mishnah, the Gemara here, spoke about halachas of wine that's turning bad if it still has the taste of wine, but it doesn't have the aroma of wine, whether you make a bracha gofen on it, or you make a bracha shahakel. Additional discussions, yeah. So the Gemara continues and says as follows. Shmarim shel truma, when you have the sediments that are truma sediments, and you're pouring water on it, and the water, you take out the water, and that turns into wine. So, rishai, when you pour water the first time over it, and you take out wine from that. Sheni, the second time, aser. This is going to be truma, it's wine, and therefore it's aser. Okay, now, according to the Rashbam, what we're talking about over here is that you're pouring water over it, and the amount of water that comes out is the same amount that you poured in. You poured on it 3 cups of water onto the sediments, and then it comes out 3 cups of wine. But it's also the first and second time, it's absorbing a lot of the taste of the wine, and it becomes mamish wine. Shlishi, however, the third time, mutter, then it's allowed. That's already not considered to be wine, even if it has a taste of wine, but that's considered to be water. Rav Meir says, af shlishi, even the third time when you pour on the sediments, b'nois and tam. You have to see, you have to taste it. If it gives a taste, if it has a taste of wine, then it's wine. This is the halacha regarding truma. Now, v'shal meiser, when it comes to meiser, what we're talking about over here is meiser sheni, that you have to bring up and eat in Yerushalayim. So risha in aser, by meiser, we're more lenient with this. The first time you pour the water over the sediments and that comes out wine, that's aser. Sheni, but the second time, mutter, it'll be allowed. Rav Meir says, af sheni b'noisen time. Here as well, Rav Meir is machmer when it comes to the meiser, the second time as well. If it has a taste of wine, it's wine. Now, b'shal hektish, when it comes to sediments of hektish, here we're more stringent. Shlishi aser, even according to Tanakama says, the third time you pour the water over the sediments, it's wine and it's aser. And revi mutter, only the fourth time you pour water over it and it comes out, so that's considered water and it's mutter. Rav Meir says, af revi, even the fourth time you pour over the sediments, b'nois and tam, it depends on the taste. If it has a taste of wine, it's wine. This is one braisa. So the Gemara asks on this, I'll ask you a contradiction from another braisa. There it says, shel hektish, if you have the sediments of hektish, la'olam aser. If you pour water on it and it comes out wine, it's always going to be aser. Even if it's many, many times. Not only like we said before over here, 4 times and so on. And the shel meiser, when it comes to pouring water over the sediments of meiser sheni, la'olam mutter. It's always going to be mutter. Even the first time, it's really water, it gets the taste of the sediments, but it's water and it's always going to be mutter. Says the Gemara, kashya hektish. We have a contradiction here regarding hektish, whether we're always machmer, or in the first price it said only up to the 4th time. And kashya meiser, also a contradiction regarding meiser. In the second price it says we're always lenient, and in the first price it says that the second time or the third time, that's when you can be lenient. So the Gemara answers, hektish like kashya. The contradiction regarding hektish is not a question. Kan b'kedusha saguf. In the brisa that it says, in the second brisa that it says, you have to be machmer always, that whenever you pour wine, it's water that is on the sediments, it's going to be wine. That's wine that's kedusha saguf. This is wine that's designated for the nesachim, for the wine that's poured in the mizbeach, has a kedusha in the very wine itself, or the very sediments itself, and therefore any little bit of that wine, or that taste of wine that's going to be in the water, is going to aser it. Kan b'kedushas damim. However, the first brisa is speaking about where it's not for the nesachim, it's wine or sediments that a person dedicated to be for the Beis HaMikdash or the Bedek HaBayis, and it only has value, only the value of it, the money of it has kedusha. And therefore, this over here, it's much more lenient. By the 4th time or the 5th time, it's not considered to be anymore hektish. That's the answer regarding hektish. Meiser, nami loikashia. The contradiction regarding meiser is not a question either. Kan b'meiser vadai. When the brisa says that you have to be machmer the second time or maybe the first time, that's when it's meiser that comes from produce. That's for sure meiser sheni. But when it comes to Maisa, which is only because of Demai, which is in the case where you have from the produce of Nama Oretz, where there's a takana to give Meiser, over here it's much more lenient, and therefore, anytime you pour water over these sediments, we're lenient and it's not considered to be wine. Just like we said here, regarding the cases that we just mentioned here, regarding the Isser, regarding Trume, Meiser, Hektish, the first, second, third time, and until which point it's considered to be still Aser. Similar was also said regarding the Hechsher. So the Gemara here is comparing from Trume. That's what Rashbam says. Just like by Trume we said that the first and second time is considered to be water, but the third time you pour the water over the sediments, it's again, the first two times it's wine, and the third time it's water. Similar regarding Hechsher, which means that in order for produce to become fit to be Mekabel Tumah, it has to come in contact with certain liquids, Yad Shochadam, which is 7 different liquids that if it got in contact with those liquids, it will become Tameh. So the same thing over here regarding this wine, the halacha of whether it's considered to be wine or not, it'll be similar to the way we said it regarding Truma. If it's the first time, the second time it is still wine, and the third time it's not. Okay, so the Gemara right away will address here the obvious question that whether it's wine, whether it's water, it shouldn't matter. Because either way, this is liquid that if it comes in contact with the produce, it's machshir, it makes it fit to be mekabel tumah. So how is this halacha that Rabbi Yochanan said relevant? Hechsher and demai. What are we talking about? How are we using this liquid here that it comes in contact with the produce to make it fit for tumah? Demaya, are we talking about water? Achshur machshir. Whether even if it's still water, it makes whatever produce it comes in contact with mukhsher, fit to be mekabel tumah. If you say that it's considered to be wine, also achshur machshir, it also makes it fit to be mekabel tumah. So there's really no difference if we consider it wine or water. And says the Gemara, the case here is as follows: Shetamdoi b'meig shomim, that the water that's being poured here on these sediments is rainwater. And regarding rainwater, it's not going to be. The rainwater itself cannot be machshir something to be mekabel tumah, and therefore we have to see if it's wine or not. And the reason is because this is what we learn from the pasuk v'chiyutan mayim al zara, that it says yutan v'darshna yitain, that only something that the person has a kavana, that he has a machshava, that this water should be here, that is what is able to be machshir, the zera, the produce, to become tameh. Just the rainwater itself, but that rains, that can't be machshir something to be mekabel tumah. But if it's wine, then it's not rainwater anymore, then the wine will be machshir, will make this produce fit to be mekabel tumah. Okay, now the Gemara goes through over here to explain what is the situation here with this rainwater. Fragt the Gemara, v'kiv in the kashakel v'rameluhu lemana. Since he's taking this water, the rainwater that's now in this vessel, where it had with the sediments, and he's pouring it out, and he's pouring it into another vessel, achshevinu. So even if originally the rainwater came there and it's just without his intention, without his doing anything, but now he's pouring it out. That's the whole halacha that Rabbi Yochanan is speaking about over here. That person is using it, pouring it. There's one time it goes in, a second time, a third time. So over here with the rainwater, if we're talking about rainwater, at this point the Gemara is thinking that we're talking about rainwater that a person has in a vessel, and he pours the rainwater onto the temed. So if he's pouring the rainwater onto this, or onto the shmarim, that is, onto the sediment, so then he's machshavit. The person wants it. So v'chiyit mayim azara, which you learn from that it has to be him that is interested in this being done. He's doing it. Says the Gemara, lo tzrich shenitmad me'elav. The case here is that it's raining. A person put a barrel of sediments outside on the porch, and it's raining, and it rains onto this barrel, and it becomes temed, which is this wine with the sediments, and it happens on its own. It's just raining onto it. So the person didn't do anything. So if it's just water, if it's still rainwater, so then it's not going to be machshir anything else to be mekabel tumah. But if it's wine, then by wine, this halacha that has to be dafka with the machshava or the ratzon of the person doesn't apply. That's only regarding water, because the pasuk says v'chiyutan mayim. But by wine, either way, then it's going to be machshir to be mekabel tumah. But the Gemara still asks on this, V'kivin the kanogid, since he's pouring it out, he's pouring out once and he's pouring out again. Achshavinu, still he's machshavit, he shows that he wants it. Because the whole halacha that Rabbi Yochanan was saying here is that we compare it to the way it is by truma. The first time you put the water into the shmarim, into these sediments, then it's wine. Second time it's still wine. The third time, then it's not wine anymore. So we're talking about a case where the person poured once, then he pours it out, then he pours in a second time, even if it rains a second time. But he's pouring out this wine and then it's raining on it a second time. So when he pours it out, so he's machshavit, that shows that he wants this wine. Even if you consider it to be water, it doesn't matter, but he wants it, he's using it. So Rav Papa says, the case here is, he never poured out anything. It rained, he left a barrel of sediments outside, it rained on it, and then what happened? Then a cow came and drank it up, and then it came a second time and a third time, but the person never poured it out. So if it's water, the person did nothing to show that he has any interest in using it. But if it's wine, over there, even if he doesn't show any interest in using it, then wine is machsham to be makabel tumah, even without that, even without the person's interest in using it. And that was the case where the halacha of Rabbi Yochanan is relevant regarding tumah. Amar Rav Zutre bar Tovia Amar Rav. Ein oimrim kiddush hayom. You can't make kiddush Shabbos, Friday night. You can't make kiddush ela al hayayin, only on wine. Haroi linosech al gabi hamizbeach. Wine that's fit to be used in the nisachim that you pour on the mizbeach. So the Gemara explains, L'mutei mai, what was Rav coming to exclude? If you'll say, L'mutei yayin megitoi, he's coming to exclude the wine that's immediately when it's pressed, basically when it's still grape juice, before it ferments and before there's any alcohol, that's what can't be used for kiddush. What v'hatani Rab Chiya? Rab Chiya taught, yayin megitoi, when it comes to the nisachim on the mizbeach, the wine right when after you pressed it, when it's still grape juice. Lo yavi, you shouldn't bring it for the nisachim on the mizbeach, but maybe b'diavad, if it was brought kosher, then it is kosher. So the kivin, now if when it comes to the mizbeach, the nisachim, the im hevi kosher b'diavad, if it's brought as a nisachim, it's kosher. Anan, us, when it comes to using wine or grape juice for kiddush, afilu l'chatchila nami. You could even l'chatchila use grape juice for kiddush. Rashbam explains it's pasha to the Gemara that when it comes to the wine on the mizbeach, b'diavad grape juice is fine. For kiddush, for sure, l'chatchila, it's okay. Rashbam brings that the reason why over there by the nesachim l'chatchila it's supposed to be wine and not grape juice is because the lashon of the pasuk regarding nesachim it says hasech nesach sheichar. So it uses the term hasech nesach sheichar, which means yayin hameshaker. It has to be wine, has alcohol in it. So therefore, l'chatchila it should be yayin hameshaker. But b'diavad it's not ma'akiv. Because by kotchem, whenever it doesn't say something twice, it means it's not ma'akiv. Or the Rashbam says, because it says a double lashon, hasech nesech, we learn out that even grape juice is fine. So therefore the Gemara says, for kiddush, even l'chatchila you can use grape juice. So that can't be what Rav was saying is not kosher for kiddush. Now the Gemara brings the Omar of it. The Rashbam is actually going to ve Omar of it, that this is an additional raya to the point that we're saying that grape juice is good for kiddush. So Rava said, "Seichet Adam Eshkol Shalanovim." A person can squeeze a cluster of grapes, and Vayimer of Kiddush Hayom, and he could immediately say on this fresh grape juice Kiddush. So Ve'elo says the Gemara Lemuute, what Rav that is came to exclude when he said that it has to be like the Nesachim on the Mizbeach. So it comes to exclude Mipia. If you're taking the wine from the top of the barrel, on the top of the barrel, the wine over there is not necessarily good quality. There can be some, not sure what it's called in English, this whiteness that's on top of the barrel, or mishuleha, or at the bottom of the barrel. When you take the wine all the way from the bottom of the barrel, there's a lot of sediments there, and it's not good quality wine. So it's that wine that's not good for the mizbeach, and therefore it's not good for kiddush either. But the Gemara says that can't be the pshat, because Vatani Rab Chiya said, Mipia or mishuleha, the wine that you take from the top of the barrel or the bottom of the barrel, lo yavi, it shouldn't be used for nisachim. Vim heavy, but with the evid, if it's brought, kosher, it is kosher. So for kiddush, it would definitely be kosher, even lechatchila. The Elo says the Gemara lemuute. It could come to Rav could be coming to exclude the following things: yayin kushi, very dark wine, it's mamish like black. The Rashbam says, bayrek, or wine that's very light wine, white wine. Now we're not talking over here about very dark wine or light or white wine that's naturally white or dark because of the quality of the grapes. We're talking about over here that this is something that it went bad with the wine. Therefore, the color is totally off. Or another kind of wine is Helistein, which is wine that's very sweet but very low alcohol. I think this is from grapes that get overripe, and then when you make the wine from this, it's not proper quality wine. It's very sweet and not much alcohol in it. Or wine shel martif, wine that you took out of the cellar and you didn't check to see that it's actually wine and not vinegar. Wine that's kept in the cellar, as we were learning before the Gemara, you sell wine from the cellar, you don't know what the quality is. It could be that it went already bad. It could be it's vinegar. Shel tzimukim, raisin wine, is also what could be excluded here, that it can't be used for Kiddush. But the Gemara asks in all of these cases, but we learned about all these kinds of wines, but on all of them, lo yavi. It should not be brought for the Nesachim. But v'im hevi, if it was brought, kosher. They still are kosher. Again, this cannot be what's being excluded for Kiddush. So the Gemara says something else. Ve'ela lemu'ute yayin kaisis. Rav came to exclude that is wine, which is called yayin kaisis, that we spoke about before. The Mishnah used this lashon kaisisin. That means wine that's beginning to go bad. This is wine that still has a taste of wine, but it has an aroma of vinegar. Mazuk, or wine that is diluted. It's not the pure wine, it's diluted in water. Or megula, wine that was left uncovered overnight, and it's possible that a snake put venom into this wine, and you're not allowed to drink from it. It's a sakana. Or vishal shmarim, wine that we were speaking about before, which is called temed, when you pour water on the sediments, and that creates wine. And also wine visharei chayra, wine that has a bad smell. This is wine that was stored in very bad quality barrels, and even if it's still it's wine, has a taste of wine, has an aroma of wine, but still, because it was stored in these kind of barrels, it has a very bad smell. The Tanya, we learned regarding these cases that we just mentioned, they're bekula on all of these, lo yavi. It should not be brought for the Nesachim. If it was brought for the Nesachim, possible. It's possible to be used for Nesachim, so therefore these are the cases of the wines that Rav was saying, that's similar we say regarding Kiddush Hayayim, Shabbos, you shouldn't use it for Kiddush. Okay, but now the Gemara goes through each one of them, and it points out that not necessarily could we say that it can't be used for Kiddush. Which one of these cases was Rav saying that it can't be used for Kiddush? If he meant to say that the wine that's called kaisis, it's beginning to sour and it still tastes like wine, but it has an aroma of vinegar. But this is actually a machlekes. Plukte de Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. We had before, the Gemara said, on Daf Tzadik Vav, or maybe even before, on Daf Tzadik Vav, the Gemara, the block before this, right? The Gemara said that it's a machlekes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yochanan says you follow the taste. If it still has a taste of wine, it's good. And Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says you follow the aroma, and therefore you make a bracha shahakal on it. So it's a machlekes. Lav dafke, this is what Rav was coming to exclude. If he's saying it's coming to exclude wine that's diluted with water, so on the Beis Hamikdash, on the Mizbeach, wine that's diluted cannot be used. Rashbamia brings that by the Nesachim, the pasuk says, "V'niskay revius hahin," it has to be pure wine, not diluted. But regarding Kiddush, why should diluted wine not be able to be used? For drinking, when you dilute it, it only makes it better. Iluye alye. It makes it better quality wine. In the times of the Gemara, when the wine, and if it wasn't diluted, it was hard to drink. That Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina is made to Chachamim when it comes to a kais of bracha, that you shouldn't make, you shouldn't bench with it, you shouldn't make kiddush on it, unless you first dilute it with water. We had before that Rav said actually that not only you have to dilute it, but it has to be 3 parts water and 1 part wine. That's how much has to be diluted. Now, if you're saying that Rav's chiddush was to say that you can't use wine that was left open overnight, but why is Rav coming and comparing it to the Mizbeach and saying that's why you can't use it? Sakanahi. The reason you can't use it is because it's a sakana. There's a possibility that a snake put its venom into this wine. That's why you can't use it. Now, if the case is that he's coming to say that you can't use temed, when you make wine, when you pour water over the shmarim, over the sediments, what kind of a wine? What's the case we're talking about over here? Hey chidami, if you poured 3 cups of water onto this shmarim, and now he gets out 4 cups, so not this is perfect wine. The Gemara explained this also before on the previous daf, and there it explains, just like regarding diluting wine, you have 3 parts water and 1 part wine. Over here, by this temed, which is 4 cups and now 1 cup is wine and 3 is water is perfect wine. If you pour 3 cups of water onto the shmarim, onto the sediments, and it comes out just 3 cups of water, or sorry, Gemara says vasa tlasa upalga, that is, and he gets 3.5 cups of water mixed now with some of the sediments, so just another added half a cup. Plukte the Rabbanan v'Acherimi. This is a machlokes between Rabbanan and Acherim that we had also before in Daf Tzadik Vav, whether this is considered to be wine or water. Do we say that the water gets absorbed in the shmarim and therefore you have really wine there, or the water does not get absorbed, so therefore it's not wine? So Ella, so if so, we have to say that when Rav said you shouldn't use for Kiddush what you can't bring for the Nisachim on the Mizbeach, we're only left with one case. Lamute sherei choira. It comes to exclude the case of the wine that has a bad smell. It's wine that's really still wine, but because it was kept in very bad quality barrels, so therefore this wine becomes repulsive, and therefore you can't use it for Kiddush. Or the Gemara says, we can say, going back to another case here, I can tell you that Rav was coming to say that you shouldn't make Kiddush on wine that was kept open overnight. And the Kiddush here is, even though we said it's a sakana, so anyways you can't use it. The case here is that he sifted it. Rab Nechemia holds that if you sift it, then it's safe to drink. But nevertheless, it should not be used for Kiddush, and the reason is, we learn from the pasuk, it says, if you're going to bring these kinds of things for your minister, the beginning of the pasuk there speaks about that if you bring something, a carbon, which is piseach, chayla, ein ra, hakriveyu no lefechasecha, something which is not good quality. Are you going to bring this for a minister? Will he be appeased by this? Will he be happy with this? So too over here, regarding the Nesachim, you can't use this kind of wine, even if it's not dangerous to use it, because it was sifted. And the same thing for Kiddush, it's not dangerous to use it, but nevertheless, it's not good quality wine and it can't be used. Okay, the Gemara finishes off with this inyan with an ibaya regarding making Kiddush. Rav Kahana, Chamur de Rav Misharshie, Mirave, Rav Kahana, the father-in-law of Rav Misharshie, asked Rave, Chamar Chivarian Mahu, white wine. What's the halacha with white wine? Could you make Kiddush on white wine? Amalei, so Yatzirim, Alteire, Yayin, Ki Yisadam. Do not drink too much wine, and the pasuk uses the expression of red wine. So we see that real wine is called wine which is red. So therefore you should make Kiddush on red wine. And the Gemara it says that you should not use white wine, but in Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe paskins that you could make Kiddush on white wine. But as you see here, there is an inyan to make Kiddush on red wine. There's a famous story of the Rebbe with a doctor from California, Dr. Lovich. He had an issue with his eye. He had a major accident with his eye, and he called the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked if he makes Kiddush on red wine. I think Kiddush and Avdallah actually it was, if I remember correctly. And afterwards he began making Kiddush on wine, and he was miraculously healed from making Kiddush on red wine. Okay, the Gemara goes back now to what it said in the Mishnah, Kankanim b'sharein v'chulu, when you're selling barrels in Sharein, which is an area in Eretz Yisrael. So the Mishnah said that the buyer is accepting that 10 out of those barrels are going to be bad quality barrels. Which the lashon that the Mishnah used was, let's see if I have the Mishnah over here, on Daf Tzadik Gimel, that Mekabel Olav Eser Pitasis Lemeya. The buyer accepts 10 barrels that are called Pitasa is bad quality for 100 barrels. So the Gemara explains what's the bad quality here. Tana, we learned in Abraisa, Pitasais means nois and mugufares. The 10 bad barrels doesn't mean he accepts 10 barrels that are going to be mamish garbage and not usable at all. That he doesn't accept. But it means it's good condition, but it's mugufares. These are barrels that was patched together with pitch or with tar, and it's barrels that can be used for a certain period of time, but it's not going to last too long. So that's the bad barrels that he accepts amongst 100 barrels. That's the pshat in the Mishnah.